supposed to be supplemental. Somehow it got translated in the minds of people into what was supposed to sustain you. And we really need to alter that. Now, having said that, I do understand why savings have gone down so much. Because it used to be that Joe the Butcher would put 5% of his earnings into a savings account each week. And he saw a nice return on that because, you know, we had 4, 5, 6, 7% interest rates. Now we've got interest rates that are near zero. So, you know, he's not really seeing that growth anymore because the Feds are suppressing artificially the rate. And, you know, a few weeks ago, Janet Yellen was talking about, you know, allowing the rates to rise, but she got a lot of pushback on that. And I understand why, because, you know, if you allow those rates to rise with an 18 to 19 trillion dollar national debt, you know, the debt service on that is going to skyrocket. Right now, you know, it's 250 billion. It would go up to over 800 billion. And that's huge. So we're really between a rock and a hard place. We really don't have the ability right now to let the interest rates rise. What we have to do instead is we have to work on that deficit, on the debt. And we can do that because think about the resources that we have. You know, when you get into trouble and you go into a financial manager, what do? They ask you a series of questions. They say, what do you own and what do you owe? That's question number one. Number two, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Number three, how do you plan to get there? And number four, how do we change this talk into action? Well, that's the same thing that we have to do as a nation. What do we owe and what do we own? Well, we have a good impression of what we owe, but we don't have a good impression of what we own. Most people don't. The federal government owns over 900,000 buildings. We own over 2.4 billion acres of land. We own the mineral rights to those acres of land. You know, and that's estimated to be somewhere between 64 and 128 trillion dollars.
Imagine.
Based on the price of oil at that time. We own 17,000 miles of leeways and dams and national parks, and I mean it goes on and on and on. By the time you get done, you're looking at least $150 trillion worth of assets. Now, what if you were a business and you had $150 trillion worth of assets? If you only managed it in a way that you got a 2% return a year, you could pay off a $20 trillion debt in 7 years. So that's why I say we need to manage our resources and our government like a business.
Amen.
And you know that's I'm very aware that having sat on Kellogg's board for 18 years and Costco for 16 years, watching both of those grow and double and triple and quadruple in size, and knowing what goes into being able to do those kinds of things, and being acutely aware that we can do the same thing with our government.